Thank you very much. Welcome, you guys. The weather is not so great today, but if we're a bit boring, you also have a chance to go and have a dip in the sea, right? Yes, a bit clothing. So I have three speakers representing international communities. So firstly, I welcome Sharon from Ireland, yeah. Then Manuela from South Africa, and Wouter from the Netherlands. Yeah, thank you very much for So one of the issues of having distinguished guests like this ones is each of them
I didn't get that memo.
As a bio that has kind of a kilometer long. So bear with me, but I want to introduce them properly, right? So Sharon first, representing the Ireland Chamber of Commerce. Yeah?
No, Ireland Portuguese Business Network.
Business Network, sorry, yes, my fault.
I know, it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Financial advisor. You have been doing that for a while, 30-year history. Working with entrepreneurs, retirement planning, pension transfer, so anything about inheritance taxes, all about taxes and...
all about the money.
Yeah, all about the money. You're all about the money. We're all about the money. Thank you. And additionally to that, she has been supporting business operations, product research, compliance, so huge experience and a great asset from making the connection between the Irish community and the Portuguese community. Thank you, Sharon. Then Manuela from the South African Chamber of Commerce. So Manuela lives here nearby in the Algarve with her husband Nick and the daughter. She is the first woman to serve as president of the Luso South African Chamber of Commerce. Well done, well done. She is also the chairwoman of the supervisor board for Talentos Unidos, who's a non-profit dedicated to support talented individuals. And she is, again, president of the Rotary Club of Stoi. And she has over 30 years experience in the financial sector. So working for Barclays, Deutsche Bank, and she's currently the director for operations of Black Tower Financial Management. Wow, well done, Manuela. Thank you for having you. And Wouter, glad to have you here representing COREangels Algarve and a core member of the Netherlands community in here. So he's a tech guy and he believes in solving societal challenges through entrepreneurship. He has been supporting entrepreneurs for a long time and an entrepreneur himself. And he has been focusing on being an entrepreneur, an advisor, and a part-time investor. He's just set up a fund on sustainability that the Algarve Evolution is a proud advocate and collaborator. In the last 5 years, he has been serving as an innovation consultant for local government in the Netherlands, and he now resides in the Algarve. Welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so after this introduction, I would like to start with each of these three speakers represent different countries, different cultures, different heritage. So I'll ask each one of you, how do kind of the culture from your home country, or in the case of Manuela, South Africa, kind of helps you, and how does it merge with making businesses in Portugal? Talk a bit more about the country that you represent, and how does it help kind of the distinct culture in doing your job here in Portugal? Yeah, who wants to start?
Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here today. So I represent the South African Chamber of Commerce in Portugal. So basically what we do is we try and promote the trade between the two countries. So promoting cultures, promoting anything that has to do with the two countries. It's not always very easy, but there is a certain thing that is quite easy. Is we have a huge diaspora in South Africa. So basically a lot of Portuguese back in the olden days, especially from Madeira, it was a way to get out of Madeira to make a living, was to go by boat to South Africa. That's why a lot of the Portuguese that are still living in South Africa, and this is second, third, fourth generation, their origin is actually Madeira, not so much from the mainland. There are also a lot that went from the colonies, so from Angola, from Mozambique, especially during the war. And again, those have stayed on, and now we are talking about people second and third generation. So it's actually quite easy when you talk about Portuguese and the influence of and how you can bring the two nations together. They have themselves in South Africa a lot of events, a lot of festivals promoting the two countries. So promoting their culture, so shared heritage, so South African culture, Portuguese culture. And that makes it quite easy when they come to Portugal and want to invest in Portugal. However, there are challenges, of course. And being second and third generation, you have the language barrier because people tend to speak the language where from the country where you are living in, so English, and forget a little bit about the native language, so the Portuguese. And sometimes they think they can actually speak it until they get here, and then they realize, wait, it's not quite that easy. So that is a challenge. In terms of promoting businesses, there is so much we can still offer, and people in South Africa, a lot of them some want to leave, some don't, but a lot of them, the majority of them, want to have a foot elsewhere. And we are very lucky in Portugal. I mean, Portugal is a gateway to Europe, so it's very easy, to come to Portugal. And from Portugal, you have a wide selection, you have a wide variety. You can go into any other country in the EU, in Europe. It's easy access, but no visas needed. Of course, if you have a Schengen visa. But a lot of the Portuguese will have that from parents, grandparents, etc. So they'll have a Portuguese passport. The other challenge that I think is the bureaucracy. I mean, us Portuguese, we're known for our bureaucracy. And it's just basically managing expectations. And if you manage the expectations, things run a lot smoother. We cannot compare, this works this way at home and here it works differently. We need to manage all of that. But there's a lot of opportunities, especially in the Algarve, and we focus mainly in the Algarve, in the tourism industry, agriculture. A lot of people don't talk too much about it, but there is a lot of opportunities in agriculture. We have in Alentejo a climate and soil that is very similar to South Africa, so we can actually bring South African goods and plant it here, and it can actually work and grow, etc. So there is, and of course in the tech.
Thank you very much. Wouter, what about for you?
Well, the funny thing is, I think the Dutch and the Portuguese are in a way similar. Only the Portuguese are darker and smaller, and the Dutch are lighter and taller. But the countries, in a way, are similar. They are both very small. With our own language, there's only so little people that speak our language, Dutch, but Portuguese is a bit more, but still. So we are used to go outside. Once back in the days, the Portuguese and the Dutch, as small countries, we ruled the world. And that still is, I think, in our systems, that we always have to go out and we always have to adapt and we always have to be flexible and show agility in how to cope. So the fact that I am as Dutch and you as Portuguese now have this discussion in English, I see with my own kids that they have to learn English, and they are in school with a lot of English kids, and they don't understand what's going on. They don't have a clue, because these kids are born and raised in English. They learn English, they have English, everything is in English. They don't have this capacity to adapt that quickly. And I think that is something that helps you in business too. So yeah, I think that's where we are sort of similar as the Dutch and Portuguese.
What about in the case of Ireland?
I think the Irish and the Portuguese are very similar in their nature. They're both small countries. They depend a lot on export. They're very entrepreneurial. They're always looking at international markets to grow and develop their businesses. I think, listening to the first panel there on with Pedro and Luis and whatever, it was really interesting to hear it from the Portuguese side, because I'm more involved sometimes with the Irish side of things. The Irish Portuguese business network is essentially that. It's more a business network, and it leaves a lot of the social and cultural aspects of the journey to the embassy. So we're more involved with the likes of the Algarve Tech Hub, the medical centre, Algarve Evolution. Yeah, I think we're doing an event next month. We're always reaching out to the key players in the region here, and joining those links between one country and the other so that they can learn from each other to develop. I can remember one of the funniest moments. I think I was talking to Pedro earlier, and I was saying I had organised a guy, John O'Day, who is head of Tech Ireland, done in the Algarve Tech Hub to do a session, and it was a lunchtime session, and it basically was bringing his expertise to the table to tech startups here in Portugal and at the university, and looking at how to scale and obviously the different round of seed fundings available and all of that there. So anyway, 10 minutes to go, and there's about 3 or 4 people in the room, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I've got this guy, I've convinced him this was a great idea, and there's nobody in the room. With 2 minutes to go, the room was packed. You know what I mean? So it was like, yeah. So sometimes you can have these ideas in your head, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. But again, that's a learning process. But again, a lot of similarities between the Portuguese and the Irish culture. And I'm laughing. I'm just remembering what Manuela was saying about the challenges of the bureaucracy. What I have found about here in Portugal, yes, it is a challenge initially. I mean, it takes time, but once you're in the system, it actually works quite effectively. You know what I mean? And even, I can remember when I came here first, I was really impressed with even the ATM technology that is available. It was so far advanced from the UK or Ireland or anywhere I'd been anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's looking around you and making the most of the different connections and people you meet, listening to stories. That's what I like to do most.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, thank you very much for this introduction. What I would like to ask each one of you now is kind of, we represent the Algarve Evolution as a business community, right? So what do you think are kind of the main opportunities for collaboration between Portuguese individuals, Portuguese entrepreneurs, Portuguese companies to do business with South Africa, Ireland, the Netherlands, right? What are the opportunities from the communities that you represent? Yeah.
I think there's a plethora of opportunities for people. Like we did I think we had somebody from the Algarve, Carlos Justino. I don't know if he's in the audience. We had him. Oh, I see you. We had him at our innovation conference there in Dublin, and basically Carlos's job was really to show the entrepreneurial side of the region, between and bringing that focus. And also we do a lot of work with the universities, UCD and Trinity in Ireland, and with the MBA students, and bring their skill set over to Portuguese and introduce them to Portuguese companies who are looking, they're at that stage where either they're trying to scale up and they need a particular type of expertise. It works for the students because obviously they get a whole thesis out of it and can complete the MBA. And it works for the businesses, the Portuguese businesses, because they get the expertise coming in, and somebody who has entirely focused on their business. So those types of collaborations are amazing, and they continue. They continue on both Lisbon here and all over Portugal, because we're now looking at Braga and Coimbra and Porto. You know what I mean? It's not just the Algarve. You have to think bigger all of the time. We looked at the Algarve Medical Centre. Has anybody ever been down there? Into the medical center at the Algarve University? Oh my God, you've got to go. It blew my mind. I come from a family of medics. I was black sheep and went and did business. But I tell you what, when I walked in there, I went, oh, if I was a student now, this is exactly where I would want to be. The setup is amazing.
The
and
technology, it's
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. They don't even need the cadavers anymore. You know what I mean? It's all done in a machine. You could just hit a button and pick any artery, vein, or anything in the body. It's fascinating. So we did an event with them in looking at AI and in terms of diagnostics and, all of that. It was a fabulous event. We took a tech company from Ireland, Ardennis, and we had Tiago Rodriguez, I think it was, from HPA. And again, that's just, leveraging those skill sets in between the two different countries, learning from each other. So again, that work just continues and continues on. Was obviously with yourselves. So that page is to be written yet. Joe, let's see what happens. Because we're doing an event for yourselves now in November. It's not ignoring what's right under your feet, and that's why I'm fascinated by the smaller companies here, and hearing their stories and listening to what it is that they need. Because what I find is sometimes I ran an agricultural event about 2 years ago in Villa Vita, and I had two stages. I had the big players stage, the big bosses, and then I had a smaller stage, which was the more unknown Algarve, the farmers, the beekeepers, the different things like that, the unknown tourism. And again, that was one of the things that I try to stay away from, that Algarve is just seen as the tourism destination and our retirement place. It's not. It has so much energy and new life about it in new businesses. So I remember in one of those rooms, I had a guy from the forestry, and he was telling me that he had this issue with saplings. And then I had another guy who did vertical farming, a young guy from Ireland. I had no idea what vertical farming is. That was an education in itself. But he was telling me what he did. And it was a matter of just walking the two of them across the room to each other. And now a new business is born. And again, that's the part of the job that I love.
Right.
It's just introductions,
getting people together.
To learn from each other.
Ireland is open for business. That's
Absolutely.
That's good. Thank you very much. Manuela, kind of opportunities for collaboration, South Africa and Portugal? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things is we do foster and we do promote the partnerships between entrepreneurs, between the two countries and entities. We do this by having informative talks. One of the things that the Chamber is preparing is business delegations, so a business delegation of entrepreneurs coming from South Africa to Portugal. But we're also very lucky because Portugal also, just on its own, attracts a lot of talent by implementing certain things like they did initially with the NHR. Now they have the IFICI Plus. So that already attracts people that are higher net worth individuals, that are either already entrepreneurs that want to start a business here. So all of that is attracting a new talent and new entrepreneurs to Portugal, giving them obviously tax benefits, but it is a good thing for them to come here. Like I said, even in South Africa, there are also festivals, there are also events that they do to promote the two cultures. And there's entrepreneurs that go from Portugal to there and see what are the synergies that they can actually, how they can join synergies.
Your point about keeping the good people here. I think somebody mentioned it in one of the first panels about the brain drain. So what you're talking about, Manuela, is really important about attracting those people from outside and also keeping the good talent in.
Yeah, and high activity. So yeah, so that's basically, you know, how we try and do things and promote our country, because not just the Algarve, because the Algarve is small,
Right.
and especially the younger generation, they want to go to the city, they want to go, you know, into Lisbon, into Porto. And that is important, not just to promote the Algarve, because also the Algarve, there's niche markets. It's not for every industry.
Right,
You know,
right,
we
sure,
depend a lot on tourism.
Gotcha.
So not everyone wants to go into tourism. So it's also trying to see where people can come and where they can best fit in Portugal.
Makes sense. Yeah, Walter, opportunities.
Well, for the Dutch Chamber, it's a member organization. It's mainly focusing on businesses, and well, being Dutch is an advantage. Being honest and sort of blunt. The funny thing is, the chamber itself has its full focus on Lisbon. I am one of the few representatives in the Algarve. So a few weeks ago, I was in Lisbon, and you had to put this sign on. So what you do, and I represent the Algarve, and it's what you can do as a chamber or as a government is putting in place this first handshake. But as an entrepreneur, I know that that's of value, but honestly, it doesn't help, because you need more. To make knowledge transfer work from the north to the south, for example, the Dutch are very good in water technology, agriculture. That's the main focus is on export. But a handshake alone is not enough. You need more. You need hands-on. You need a deeper relation to the local networks. And that is, I think, a real challenge to make it actually work, because you can introduce so many people to so many people, and then what's next? In a few weeks is the Web Summit. The Dutch government, they organize this beautiful pavilion, and Team NL, beautiful. And what they do is they make sure you get this first handshake, this introduction, and then it's up to you. They bring, I think, 25 startups to Lisbon.
Okay. Yeah.
And what's next? And that's, I think, is where we as a network should step up in the game and say, okay, well, now we have to make it actually work, because being an entrepreneur is not going to all these kind of events, because it distracts you from your actual job.
Right. You need consequence after that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
You need to be facilitated in the knowledge transfer. And that's something we focus on.
That would be an interesting concept, looking at the government and government funding, or creating sort of some tax relieved incentives for investors in these new businesses and new tech startups.
Yeah.
That would
be so. That would be kind
so
of.
who's going to do that?
Right. Yeah. That's a good one. I think now my final question would be focusing on that. What are kind of the challenges, and what can be done to improve things? Right. Anyone would like to take first pass?
Challenges. I can.
Yeah.
I mean, challenges. I did mention one was the language barrier. Even though we're very lucky in the Algarve, most of the people actually speak English. We should not come with the mentality to Portugal thinking, well, I'll just not learn Portuguese. I think that's the wrong mindset. We should try. And I think that is a barrier, especially when you are then dealing with certain governmental issues. And like we were saying, there's government grants and things like that you can take advantage of. And not knowing the language is a huge barrier and a challenge. Again, bureaucracy, but as long as you you manage their expectations, then people will come with a different mindset, and they will not be scared or very worried about all the bureaucracy. We need to come back. We need to come here and think that things are not the same as back home. We shouldn't be comparing. We're coming here. We need to remind ourselves, why are we coming here? because I'm an investor, because of the lifestyle, because of all those reasons that have brought you to come either and live in Portugal or come and invest in Portugal. And I think if you have that, then the challenges you can overcome. But it's not always easy. It's not always easy, of course. And also focusing on certain industries. So do some research
beforehand.
I think
know
that's
what
so
you're getting
important.
into, right? Sure.
You can't
Yeah,
come here and think, all right, I'm going to open up,
It sounds so
Tesla.
simple, Manuela, but a lot of people don't do the research.
Yeah. So I think doing research before your move, before investing, do a market research, that is also fundamental.
Challenges and the kind of things that could get better in your perspective.
I think the challenges, are very individual to different people, depending on what you're coming here for.
Right.
I know in the market, in my main work in finance, the challenges for people is, making sure that it's working for them compliantly, tax efficiently in the new country of residence, finding their crew, making sure that they have a social outlet as well. And obviously the language is a barrier. I thought I was pretty good at languages until I tried Portuguese. I'm so shit.
Yeah, Portuguese is tough. Yeah,
and I think it's I don't know if it's the pronunciation. For me, I came initially on my own. So I was a female on my own. And I joined the Irish Portuguese Business Network because I was always interested in business and obviously finding people that I could identify with. And then I also looked and I established the Algarve Women's Network last year as well. And the idea behind that was to give women a platform where they could meet other women in similar situations. For those that were still working or growing or developing business, that they could learn from each other. So it's all the skill sets are very transferable, across. It doesn't matter what network, what culture, whatever you come from, you learn constantly. And so long as you don't forget that, I think the challenges are negated or lessened, so to speak. I said about the getting into the system here, like getting registered on the health system, getting this. Sometimes you just sit there and you lose the will to live at the counter, whereas I feel as if I spoke Portuguese, I could maybe get there faster. I could talk to somebody, or somebody might just get sick of listening to me and give me a number that would move me up the queue and get it done so I could go back to the day job. But, once you're in, as I say, once you're in the system, it's a very smooth process. And people would ask me, what are the key things? And I would get a Portuguese number.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
That helps. Yeah. Once you're there, then everything is making.
You start to integrate. Integrate to the culture that you've moved into. Right. It's there's no harm in being yourself, but at the same time, be respectful of where you are.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Doesn't happen. Sorry. Listening to the funny thing is, if you. Everybody's complaining about the bureaucracy, but that's looking at a new system that you don't know. But if I am really honest, I think if you, Joe, would go to live in Amsterdam and try to get your things fixed, it's a hell.
Right.
So bureaucracy it's everywhere, and I think it's most of the times because we just don't know. I find it very frustrating that I can't get in certain organizations because it blocks my ambitions, but it is as it is. And I think that is exactly, I know it is exactly the same in the Netherlands. Right. I work in government. I know how it works, and I know how easy it is for me to get to whatever
because how
in office
it works already. Yeah, sure.
But for foreigners, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's adapting. It's the agility in finding your way. And what I find very good here is that even it took me 4 hours to open a bank account, and there was this lady. She actually made 4 hours of time, And the only thing I had to do was just smile at her and
let her do her work.
And there were other
No
people
wonder
coming.
she
There were other
took 4
people coming.
hours.
It took me 4 hours.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, it's incredible that it has to take 4 hours. But there is an office in Amsterdam. You don't find any bank offices anymore because we all close them down. So there
you
is
still get
somebody
the
working,
personal-
and there is somebody who makes an effort to make it work.
Mm.
And it takes time. But if that is what it is, it's a blast.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, the opportunity is there, and I think we should stop complaining about bureaucracy.
I like that. Well, thank you very much. I think the Algarve is very privileged to have such a large and multicultural international community. And I think I'll just encourage you all, if you want to have kind of a business relationship with Ireland, South Africa, Netherlands, just reach out and speak to them. And thank you very much for your time. Right? Appreciate
Thank you, Joe, for having us.
Thank you.
it.